Welcome, everyone, to the Appalachian Liturgy Top 5. I'm Justin Stacy.
I'm Brooke, actually.
And I'm Justin Bowling.
And tonight, you're probably thinking, what is this tomfoolery? This is not week 4 of September. But we had an audible today.
Oh, good one. Good one.
You like that? You like that? We were going to do a topic, and then I up and decided, hey, you know what? We should probably get a guest for this. This would go much better with a guest. So I'll run it by Brooke and Bowling today. Like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Today.
Yeah, today. So then we were asking people today, and apparently their schedule does not revolve around our schedule. I mean, I don't understand.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I guess you can put the blame on me or put the blame on Brooke and Bowling for agreeing with me. I don't know.
Because we're doing the top 5 today.
We are doing the top 5 this week. To our top 5. Appalachian Liturgy Top 5 Debate. Okay, so our top 5 is top 5 NFL quarterbacks. Vague requirements on this. I was best of all time. My list, best of all time and favorite, is the same thing. So I don't know.
I was gonna say you kind of left out a word when you first said it, because what you told to us,
top 5 quarterbacks.
You said best this morning. I have documented proof.
Originally, it was top 5. Now, here's the funny thing, though. So if you're listening and not watching, you've got to understand that Bowling is decked out in an NFL jersey, and I'm like, I mean, he came ready.
He did. Unfortunately, it's a Chargers jersey, so I don't know what that's all about.
It's actually, it is kind of random because I'm not a Chargers fan. I'm a Dolphins fan, but I got this jersey, I guess in high school, and my dad was kind of hitting around before Christmas because he's bad about keeping surprises, and he was like, what kind of Dolphins jersey would you want? Hypothetically, if somebody got you one or something. And this was around the time that the Dolphins finished their season 1-15 type thing. They were absolutely awful. I was like, I really don't know if there's a player on the Dolphins that's going to be there in 2 years. I don't know if I should get a jersey. So he's like, all right, well, who's your favorite player besides somebody on the Dolphins? And it was LaDainian Tomlinson. So I got my LaDainian Tomlinson jersey going.
Very nice. Well, I'm going to volunteer you all to go first.
Really?
Is it that bad? It's that bad?
No, it's not that bad. It's great. Best for last. That's the way I'm thinking here. Best for last. So I'm going to go last, and then you all you can, whoever would like to go first.
So let me just say that I think this is really strange because this summer when we were doing the Olympics, Stacy, you hate the Olympics, but you love NFL football.
It's questionable. I used to love NFL football.
Okay.
I still watch it. I still get into it sometimes. I definitely get into it now on Monday nights.
Oh my God.
More from that later.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So I will have to say that I did enjoy this past week's Monday Night Football.
Always amazing.
So did you watch it on ESPN or ESPN2? Is that what it was on? ESPN2?
ESPN2, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Yep. It was great.
Yeah.
All right. So either of you can go first.
Me go?
Omaha. Omaha. Blue 52. Blue 52, Omaha.
All right. So I did wear my Chargers jersey, but I'm going to start out my top 5 with none other than Dan the Man Marino. Yeah. And so if we had done this differently and done, favorite NFL quarterbacks, this would be number 1 by far. Marino was always my favorite player. But if we're going top 5, and I'm trying to be as objective as I can, I wear my Chargers jersey to try to take off my Dolphins blind spot a little bit here too. But I think Dan deserves a spot on this list. You're talking about a guy who, he came in the league in the 80s, 1984 or 1983 was his rookie season. And so his second year, he threw for 5,000 some yards. First time that's ever been done. And he was the only player that had done it for something like 25 years until Drew Brees did it, decades later. So he is doing this at a time when nobody else is putting up these type of stats. He's Mahomes level and his type of talent where he can make any throw that just awe every week type thing. Now, he does have a few downsides. One being he never wins a Super Bowl. He gets there his second year. It was probably his best chance to win. Had a pretty decent team, but later on, I mean, the Dolphins have a reputation for being bad for a reason. He never was on a great team, never had a great running back, had a couple good defenses, and then, just never was able to put a complete team together to get there. So that has to count against it when you're talking about football and having a team game. And so I can't put him much higher on my list because of that. But I think just in terms of sheer talent, greatness in a time when other people weren't putting up even remotely stats like that, he has to be on there.
I think it's fair.
Yeah. Number 4, Mr. Peyton Manning gets a spot on the list as well. Yeah, I have a feeling he might be in a different spot on some other lists. I'm not going to get too far ahead, but I put him at 4 for similar reasons, though. That he had the Marino issue for a long time, to where he couldn't get his Super Bowl win while he was on the Colts. Eventually, though, he does get it. He goes over to the Broncos, but I think that has to count a little bit against him. He was not kind of the focal point when he gets to the Broncos. It was, that great defense they had with Von Miller that pulled him through it, and a really good running game in Denver. But he does get a ring, and he deserves some credit for playing a different.
All the records that he held forever.
And now he wound up breaking almost all of Marino's records, which he held for again a couple decades, until it's another error to where people finally start breaking it. So yeah, Peyton gets on here. I think he's held back a little bit by the fact that he struggled to win a Super Bowl when he was the focal point of the offense, and when he did win it in Indy, it was with they had the good defense there with Bob Sanders, and Adrian James was kind of he needed a lot of help there to actually get it done. So
what you're saying is you hate Peyton Manning.
That's exactly what I said. But I will stick with the Colts for number 3. But the Baltimore Colts, I'm going to throw in a guy that I never saw play, during my time, but John Unitas definitely deserves a spot somewhere on this list. He was the quintessential quarterback forever in the NFL. I mean, he played back in the 60s, so it's not like I even saw the next generation of it. It was like very old highlights that I see from him, but he really has like that same type of thing that Marino had, to where he's putting up stats that make no sense in that era. He had, I think, a record of the consecutive touchdowns in a row. It may have been like 2 seasons. He threw a touchdown every single game for 2 seasons, and that went unbroken again to the same player that broke Marino's 5,000 record, and that's Drew Brees. Finally breaks that, 40 years later. That's pretty insane. And at the same time, Unitas won a bunch of Super Bowls. He won I think 2 or 3 in a row or something at one point, maybe 2 in a row. I don't think anybody won 3, but he won a couple Super Bowls in a row, all pro for a decade. It's pretty amazing what he put up in that time period. It doesn't translate exactly, to the current time period. You see middle of the road quarterbacks putting up similar, if not better stats now. But, in the 60s, if you're a quarterback and throwing to a receiver coming across the middle, I think linebackers and safeties were legally obligated to try to murder you as you. Yeah. But you don't do that anymore. So it's a little bit easier to kind of put up stats like that. Yeah. Number 2 is probably the guy that would have been considered the best until, maybe this past decade. But Joe Montana has to be on this list too, and very high on it. He's a guy that, ran the West Coast offense out in San Francisco, kind of revolutionized how quarterbacks play, and made all the modern quarterbacks follow that mold of those, short passes, quick, get the ball out of your hands, use the receivers as a pseudo running game type thing. Won ridiculous amount of Super Bowls, was clutch during all of them. And then he even left the 49ers and brought the abysmal Kansas City Chiefs at the time to the AFC Championship game. Sounds eerily similar to what somebody else may have done, who we might hear about later on the list. But yeah, Montana's definitely on here. There's not really much else you can say about him. He played on some of the best teams of all time with the 49ers and was the leader of that team, and pretty hard to beat.
We don't have to go over your number 1. We really don't have to go over your number 1.
I feel like it, as much as I hate it. It's Tom Brady. As the Dolphins fans, it pains me to say that, but
please tell me when you're editing this, you can put a boo or something.
I'm going to boo.
I'll get through this as quick as I can because I don't like it. But I mean, when you're talking about football being a team game, and you have to give credit, demerits to Dan and Peyton with their early Super Bowl struggles, you have to give credit to somebody who has won more Super Bowls by himself than any other franchise in any other team in the NFL. That's an insane stat. That doesn't make sense that you can say that. And then he leaves the Patriots with all he did there, goes to the Bucs first year, takes an 8-8 team or 7-9, 9. I don't remember what they were, but they were borderline playoff and wins the Super Bowl with that team. Basically the same team plus him and Gronk. That's dumb. That shouldn't happen. And he's like 44 years old now or something and still going strong. I think he's got some kind of witchcraft going here or something. I don't really understand how that's possible.
Watch it with the old people comments.
Well, I mean, 34 would be old for the NFL, and he's out here like 40 something doing it. It's stupid. Yeah, we're talking NFL age here, not the real age. 44 is a young person, but it's ancient in NFL age.
So, any honorable mentions?
I did have some close ones. I thought about wanting to get Elway in there somewhere. I really liked Elway and thought he was one of the most talented players. And he played on some garbage Denver teams that he just carried on his shoulders for a long time. And he finally got his rings at the end of his career. Breeze probably deserves some mention somewhere around there, but I don't know. He puts up a ton of numbers, but he also runs a very different style of offense than a lot of other people. And then maybe Favre in consideration. The fact that you can break the interception record as a quarterback is pretty impressive on its own. You have to be pretty good to actually be allowed to do that. So yeah, I had those kind of in contention, but I'm pretty happy with my top five, and I think there's a clear delineation between 5 and 6. So that's it.
All right. So I read this a little differently than the top quarterbacks. I read it as my favorite quarterbacks.
Hey, that's fair.
So favorite and best are two different things. Okay. So just let me justify this by that. So at number 5 on favorite, I had Brett Favre, Mr. Consistency, right? Just
consistently inconsistent.
Yes. But, still, but just, I loved watching him play, and I loved all of his his personality, how he was who he was, so he made my top 5. My number 4 was John Elway, just because I grew up a Denver Broncos fan, and just that's the memories I have. That happens with Joe Montana too. I mean, Joe Montana was the stuff, but my dad was a big 49ers fan, and so there were lots of dinner conversations about how great Montana was, and so he was on my top 5. At 2, I have Drew Brees. So I really appreciate, and this is totally off the field. I mean, I think he's a good quarterback on the field. But I appreciate his off the field stuff when Hurricane Katrina hit, all of the different, and the leadership that he still gives, and all the stuff that he does off the field. Just again, going favorites. And then my number 1 favorite, of course, is Peyton Manning. So Peyton Manning and I graduated high school the same year. I remember a girl in my high school class went to the University of Tennessee just in hopes to meet him. I don't know if she ever did or not, but whatever. But being big, huge University of Tennessee fans, I mean, how could Peyton Manning not be in my number 1 spot? Now I have some honorable mentions. Okay. So in my honorable mentions is Aaron Rodgers. And I really didn't want to I would have put on his list, but did you all see his new haircut?
Is it fair to call that a haircut? I thought that.
I'm not sure. Or non-haircut or unhaircut.
Isn't it just long? Like, isn't it like tied up or something?
It's like Seagal-ish. It's like slicked back and
I was gonna say, it looks like he hasn't washed it in like 3 months or something like that. It's
awful. It's terrible.
Also, he looks like, I don't know, he looks unhealthy now for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, I'm not even sure he's on the honorable mention, but he was going to be until that happened this weekend. So another honorable mention is Dan Marino. And he can't not be on the list,
I think he also holds the record for most appearances in Ace Ventura movies, but don't quote me.
Absolutely.
Probably.
He was before I was an NFL fan, I was a Dan Marino fan because of that movie.
Okay. So this next one, and he's not going to make anybody's list for being a good quarterback, I don't think, but he was just so much fun to watch and now listen to. But Tony Romo was so much fun to watch. Like,
he is a fun quarterback to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't.
You're right.
a good quarterback, but he was entertaining. I mean, you kind of never knew what was going to happen and what was, so I put him on
he played a lot like Favre, didn't he? Running around and
I would say I would give him some credit. I think he was a pretty good quarterback. He had some bad.
He was a bad team
that gave him a
bad
rap in like the fourth quarter. He had that rap of like choking away games, even though it may be a little unfair.
Right. Yeah. So and then another honorable mention goes to Warren Moon.
I really wanted to get Warren Moon in there somehow. I have fond memories of him and Marino duking it out for like the passing record during the 90s, and he's one of my Tecmo Bowl heroes. He's on that game as a quarterback and then one of the best on there to play with.
Well, and to think that he spent his first 6 years in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah.
Because what did people want to do? They wanted him to bring him to the NFL and make him a wide receiver because he was black, and that, and so for him just to have kind of conquered all of that, I mean, he deserves a spot on any list, I think.
Very good. All right. Well, your list was really good. I don't know about bowling, so questioning that one.
So, I'll have to say, Brady, I guess. I mean, it even pains me to say that he's a pretty skilled person, but I just couldn't write it down.
No, I can't either.
I'm not happy about it.
I can barely say the man's name, like without throwing up a little bit.
I will say that him as a Buccaneer doesn't tick me off as bad as him as a Patriot, because the Patriots still tick me off too. Like,
I don't think I would have wrote it down 2 years ago when he was still in the Patriots, but I can actually physically write it down. It just makes me sick.
As many times as and I still blame him for costing Peyton to not make it to a Super Bowl. I just can't forgive it. Sorry. But anyway, moving on to
one stat to be happy about, though, for me is I think his worst record versus a team is still the Dolphins.
The Dolphins.
So, yeah, I'm happy about that. Take that to the bank.
There you go. Okay, so my list was best and favorite. Okay, so you could mesh them together, and I was as objective as I am with fantasy football. Bowling can attest to that. with the teams that I always drafted, what did they look like bowling?
You may have had 3 non-Colts players on your team, something like that. I don't want to push it too far.
Yeah, I never went for like the best players. It was just always either Colts or Broncos players, and that was it. That's all I did.
I think you literally couldn't build a team when the Colts were on a bye. Like it was something.
Yeah, I just lost that week, and I was okay with that.
So, are you an NFL fan, or are you just a Peyton Manning fan?
Peyton Manning fan.
That was clear cut and quick.
Yeah, I'm completely honest with that. That's why I've, my NFL fandom has slowed down, because it's specific games that I care about now, not all games. And now that him and Eli is doing the commentary thing on Monday night, I'm going to watch that religiously. But anyway, here's my list. Here's the list I'm going to hand you. I actually made it 2 lists because I figured at least bowling's going to cry about this. So my number 5 is Archie Manning, being the patriarch of the Manning family. And he was a decent quarterback. He didn't break any records. He didn't win any Super Bowls. But to be on terrible teams with the Oilers and the Saints, he was a pretty good quarterback, and he was fun to watch.
Unfortunately, we don't have this part recorded, but before this started, you were talking about how bad of a quarterback Phillip Rivers was because he didn't win any Super Bowls or championships.
He doesn't have the last name Manning.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you see that's the fatal flaw that Phillip Rivers doesn't have. Okay, so that's my number 5. My number 4, Eli Manning. Okay, and the reason why he would make any
appearance on this?
He does not. He didn't make it to the NFL, unfortunately. But Eli Manning, only because he beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. Twice. Who does that? Nobody but Eli Manning. So he has to be on anybody's top 5 list because of that. Obviously. Okay.
Obviously.
Now, my number 3 is far-fetched, I'll give you. Like, the rest of this list is gold, but my number 3 is probably far-fetched. And it's just because I needed an extra choice in here to fulfill my list. And so my number 3 is future Marshall Manning.
Oh my gosh.
Future Marshall Manning. That is Peyton's kid. He's 9 years old right now, I think. So well into the future. But you know that Peyton Manning's kid is going to be elite. He is going to be the second coming of Peyton Manning in the NFL. There's no way he can't be.
What if he hates football?
Then Mosley. Okay, so maybe by that time we'll have, intergender rulings and we'll have women playing in the NFL. So Mosley can be the best quarterback. Either one, Marshall or Mosley Manning. I'm fine with that. That's my number 3. Okay, Bowling, you're falling out of the seat here listening to my list.
Yes.
Okay. My number 2 and my number 1 are great. Okay. If you aren't happy with my list up to now, this is where it improves. Okay.
Okay. Good.
My number 2 is Peyton Manning with the Broncos. Okay. So he goes to the Broncos after neck surgery. He breaks all these records. He goes to 2 Super Bowls, wins one of them. He should have won both of them, but he cheated out of one.
Both of them.
He was cheated out of one.
I will give you that he was a different quarterback when he came back from the neck injury than before.
He was.
And it is a pretty amazing feat to have come back from the injury or from the surgery.
That could have very well been a career-ending injury. And because of his work ethic, he was able to overcome it. And even though he did struggle to make the same passes, and it didn't have the same velocity. Of course, he always threw ducks, what they call ducks or flop balls. He's always done that, but he just didn't have the arm strength after that. But fortunately, the Broncos had the team. I mean, they had the running game, they had the defense, they had everything he needed. So he was very successful there. He broke a ton of records there. So that was my number 2. Obviously, my number 1 is Peyton Manning with the Colts.
Tom Brady. Oh, wow. Surprise.
No. Shocker. Peyton Manning with the Colts. And that was when he was in his prime. That was when he was breaking records. And he went to 2 Super Bowls again. Drew Brees and the Saints stole one of them. And, but it was such a good time in football. I absolutely loved watching Colts games.
Was ever a better student of the game than Peyton Manning. I would 100% agree with that for sure.
I mean, if we're talking about favorite players of all time, Peyton Manning has to be up there. I mean, and if he wasn't before, after his Hall of Fame speech, I was just like,
yeah, it was so good. And just listen to him on Monday night. I mean, him and Eli both. Eli's actually really smart when it comes to football as well. Listen to them like they're giving us an instruction, football 1-on-1. It's great.
I like how Peyton Manning is he's like a dad that's so disappointed when the offense does anything wrong. He's just oh my gosh, can you believe that they hit? I
love that he was pulling for both offenses. He was pulling for both offenses in the game, and then he got mad at the crowd noise. Love it because he did that during games. Yeah,
come on now.
That was great. Okay, I have honorable mentions. Y'all want to hear about honorable mentions?
Can we mention just before that the whole helmet debacle on Monday Night Football with Peyton Manning?
Oh, where he got half of it on because it didn't fit? Well, I mean, look how big his forehead is. It's not going to fit it. Yeah, that's right.
Well, and I love the fact that he laughed with it. I mean, it was just great. It was a great moment.
It was.
So honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. Future Arch Manning, that's Cooper's son. And, it's probably not going to be as good as Peyton. But it is a Manning. Has to be on here. Variant Cooper Manning. So Cooper Manning in an alternate timeline where he makes it to the NFL. Okay.
MCU What If? That's the next episode. Yeah.
That's right. And then I put just honorable mention because she should be on here. Olivia Manning, the mother.
I loved how the boys talked about how she could break down a cover 2 defense, and it was hilarious.
That's right. So apparently, something I missed during the game is apparently Archie tweeted or texted Eli or something and told Peyton to quit scratching his head, that his mom said to quit scratching his head. That's hilarious. That's great. And I did make another list, which one could call objective. And it's Unitas, Elway, Marino, Montana, and Peyton. Still Peyton at the top. There's no Brady. I want to make sure that we point that out. But I don't care about that list. This is the list that I wanted to mention. This is the list that is the best. And this is the list that needs to be our final top 5.
So, I have to ask, though, how does Marshall make it above Archie and Eli? Now that one I have.
It's Peyton's son. Peyton's son. Yeah.
Peyton's brother and father,
Oh, yeah. Not as good as Peyton.
So really, you just made a Manningville list.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't even catch that when he went through it. Wow, they are all.
You didn't even notice. So it was funny.
To the Manning world.
That's right. In fantasy football, like Bowling said, I would always just draft Colts players, and it would always be Peyton. My team name was Manning the Goat, okay, for years. And it's because Peyton was always my pick, except for one year, which one of my friends took him out of spite.
Yeah.
To keep him
sure
from
you
me.
Traded like your entire
I traded
roster.
all of my players for him, so I ended up getting him anyway.
I mean, they played it smart.
When Peyton retired, I got Eli, so that way I could keep my team name.
I think the worst though for you was you have some gamer tags that have like Colts in them, and then when you went to the Broncos, you had like an existential crisis on what.
I still do because I still use the email with Colts in it quite a bit.
If like he shares this podcast, are you gonna just like pee your pants or what?
I will.
He's gonna tweet at him every day.
Absolutely. I will pee my pants worse than that time we were doing that school skit.
All right. So any of our
we have to make a consolidated top 5 out of this disaster.
We do.
But we need our listeners to like really get Peyton's attention so that we can all
That's
see
right.
if Stacy will really pee his pants. Just saying.
All the cool kids pees their pants, according to what was it, Billy Madison?
I think so.
All right, so let's make a final list out of this.
All right, so I see we have in common
Peyton,
Marino, Elway, Montana, Unitas, and Breeze. That's what I heard. Did I miss anybody?
No, those weren't on my official list.
You're not Peyton.
That's right.
We definitely have Manning. We have Peyton.
Okay. Can we have both Mannings? Both Peyton Mannings, Colts and Broncos? Oh, dang it.
No. Veto.
Yeah, that's a hard no.
Can we veto Tom Brady?
If we're making this into the favorite, I'm very much in favor of that. I put him at the top of my one. I don't have to put him on the consolidated list. I can live with myself.
Okay. I can live with that too.
I'm very much in favor of Elway.
Marino. How about Marino?
List. Yeah, we can put Marino there too.
I think Marino and Elway almost have to be on there. And I think Montana almost has to be on there.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Peyton, I think, has to be on there. The fifth one.
What about Unitas?
I would love to sneak Breeze in there too, though.
I love Drew Brees.
I do
okay.
too.
So we got Peyton, Montana, Marino, Drew Brees, and Elway.
John Elway.
Yeah, I mean, objectively, that is a pretty good list. My list is
still a darn good list, but yeah, your list is certainly something.
It's certainly something.
It is something.
I can confirm it is 5 different names. No, it's actually not. It's not even 5 different names. Sorry.
No, because you have Colts Manning and Bronco Manning.
That's right.
And then you have future Manning. And
future Marshall Manning.
Father Manning. And brother Manning.
I mean, my list got timey-wimey. I mean, we went time travel with my list. Like, we even had variant Cooper Manning. Yes. This was a great list. I looked so forward to making this list because I knew this is what I was going to do, and it was going to be hilarious.
Honestly, I had 0 expectations for your list, and you somehow didn't meet them.
Negative. Wow, that is. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, this is a lot of fun. Peace be to you.
It was.
Have
a
good. Have a good night. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really hope you got some enjoyment out of the podcast this week. Remember to check out our website, www.appalachianliturgy.com, and follow us on all of our social medias. Merch and Patreon is coming soon, so continue to check back for that as well.